General, Division of Emergency Medical Service, EMS, Division of Fire, Division of Police, Community Police Commission, Office of Professional Standards, Police Review Board. So I hope you all brought your sleeping bags. Okay. We've got a lot to discuss. But before I do that, Madam Clerk and members, my honorable colleagues, I was reminded by some folks that were watching this yesterday that the importance of these hearings. And I remember in 1978, then as a freshman councilman, when I received my city budget, and it was much thicker and larger than this book that we're dealing with today. And we didn't have offices, so I took the book home to read. And then I sat there and realized, like it hit me out of the clear blue, the importance of this position, member council, and how critical the budget is for the city of Cleveland. For those who were in attendance, the general fund budget in 1978 was $117 million. So think about that. We've come a long way from then. So we were discussing at that point $117 million. That was the general fund budget. So, so here we are today, and we had approximately 7,500 employees. So kind of interesting time. So therefore, without any further ado, we will start with the Department of Public Safety, Department of Administration. Staff, what page?
Page 202, Public Safety Administration.
202.
Chief Director Carrie Howard. Page 204, 2023 unaudited salaries and wages, $3,452,174. 2024 budgeted, $3,431,876. 2023 unaudited total expenditures, $7,022,971. 2024 budgeted, $6,076,955. Page 206, number of employees as of December 2023, 41. Budgeted 2024, 46. Chair.
Okay. Get into the director. If you can answer, there has been a reduction in the budgeted number of employees. Can you explain that?
To the chairman and the rest of council, the reduction in number of employees is a result of the transfer of 11 positions out of Public Safety Administration of IT staff over to the Division of ITS in the Finance Department.
Okay, and when did that's being proposed, or that has taken place already? Madam Clerk? Madam Clerk?
To the chairman, it's proposed, and it would take effect with the adoption of this budget.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. With regard to the org chart, which again I need a magnifying glass to read here, is there any changes that have transpired between this budget and last year?
To the chairman, I'm not aware of any changes from last year to this year. I think the organizational structure has remained. The one change would be there's a box in here for public safety IT, and that would move over to ITS upon adoption of this budget.
Okay. Travel has increased substantially. Can you address that?
Do a minute lunch.
On page 204?
Yes, to the chair, that is in connection with the Public Safety Ambassador Program, which is a new program as of last year that the department created to provide a pipeline of folks into the department interested in the variety of careers, whether it be police, fire, EMS, et cetera, within the department.
Okay. And then also the tuition and registration fees, there's been a big increase there as well, a substantial increase.
To the chairman, same answer there. It's in connection with the implementation of the ambassador program.
And by the way, that's on page 204, so those members who would like to take a look at that. Okay, let me see what else we have here.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. Okay, Questions of the committee? Members of the committee? Questions?
Just one quick question.
Council President?
Thank you. Thank you. To the director through the chair, travel. Does this travel include the uniformed personnel that accompanies the mayor when he travels, or is that in the mayor's office budget?
Through the chair, it does not include the cost of the travel for the mayor's detail. That is covered within the Division of Police's budget.
Okay, so that's in the Division of Police budget.
Through the chair,
So
that's correct.
Public administration, this increase in travel, because the councilman is right, it's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
Is due to more of the public safety ambassadors going to recruit?
Director?
Through the chair, I'm not sure exactly what the travel is, like what the actual expenses are, but in working with the department, they requested the increase in budget for travel this year in connection with implementing the ambassador program.
Okay. The only thing that I would just ask all of our council to look at, and this is for every budget that we've seen, and as I look throughout the book, travel seems to be increasing somewhat in a lot of these categories. I know that we are getting back to pre-pandemic numbers for in-person travel, but from the chair to the chief, Zoom and all these other platforms like Microsoft and all that do exist as well. How do we know that everything is necessitated to actually go in person?
Through the chair, that across the organization, that is up to management and senior leadership to approve requests to travel. Certainly, not every request is appropriate, and so we try to balance the benefits of being in person, connecting with colleagues from across the country, learning face to face versus remote programming. And I think as we go through and begin, we're out of the pandemic, right? So I think we're going to see in-person trainings, in-person travel happening, but certainly trying to balance between in-person and remote as a way to manage costs.
Okay. Part-time permanent looks like it's increased significantly, and actually in subsequent years, there's nothing. What are those part-time permanent positions, and where are they attributed to?
Through the chairman, that is the pay to the folks who are participating in the ambassadors program. It's a part-time role, and so we're budgeting at the full participation in the program. Last year, it was being implemented, and so we only had part-year expenses for the ambassador program. This year, we're anticipating full-year expenses.
So it looks like a lot of this is centered around recruitment, and I just think, Mr. Chair, at some point in time, we probably need to bring all of these groups in order to make sure we have a better grasp of the ambassador program and if this and how this is tied to recruitment or whatever, because it looks like, according to my quick math, I see at least about 600,000 that we're putting at least probably about 4 to 5 to a half a million into just the ambassadors program. So it'd be good to understand programmatically how this, how many people does this employ, how many, what are their duties. So those are some things that I hope that we could clarify at some point in time, okay? That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One other question before I continue the line of questioning. Under contractual services, other contractual, again, a big jump there. Can you explain that one?
To the chairman, that similarly is related to some professional services in connection with standing up the ambassador program and ensuring that it's set up to succeed.
Okay. Then on page 205, materials and supplies, again, big changes there. So following up on the council president, just in time office supplies, I mean, dramatic increase.
Just in time. Through the chair, so I think a consistent theme with respect to the Public Safety Administration budget is a lot of the increase is driven by the standing up of the ambassador program.
Okay.
And so we see, with respect to printed materials, just-in-time office supplies, et cetera, it's to provide the 15 individuals participating in the program the resources they need to have a successful experience and hopefully continue their career within the Department of Public Safety.
Okay, so based on the council president's line of request to staff, if we could get a more detailed explanation from the department as it pertains to contractual services, materials and supplies, and the ambassador program.
Point of information, Mr.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I thought we was going to have the director here this morning.
Mr. President.
If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So the director, as we talked about before, was here for the operational hearings that we had and held in the last quarter of last year. If we absolutely need something, then we are going to need to request it. Once we request it, then our staff will make sure that we supply it. And then in subsequent hearings for oversight, the chair can actually bring the director in if you would like to have a further operational hearing. If there's questions today for the director to do that, we had operational hearings the last quarter of last year. And once again, if there are other things we want to do a deep dive on through our oversight authority, the chair can call that oversight through the process.
I understand that, Mr. President, but I had a conversation with Mr. Polenzig, and I was under the impression we were going to have the chairman here this morning, and that's what I'm referring to. So what happened?
Yeah.
I know you addressed the generality, but I'm here. I'm talking about a conversation I had, and when we sitting here talking to the director. Now, unless the director is a supercomputer over here, artificial intelligence, where he can read all the minds of all the departments and know all the bits and parts and pieces. Not having someone to explain what these expenditures are for and where they're really fundamentally going, and to sit here and fish for the concept of understanding it doesn't do justice to the budget process for me, Mr. President. And it's the first time, and I'll be frank, I don't like it. This is budget hearings. Those directors need to be here talking about their budgets. And that's my 2 cents. And I ain't going to say anything else on it. I don't like this process.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Santana, you had a question? Any other questions?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I can't see that. Let me see. Okay. Councilwoman Spencer, then Slife.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Through the chair to finance, can we briefly differentiate between recruitment and the ambassador program? There are a number of us who are not on the safety committee and are requesting just a brief differentiation between the two, since it sounds like a lot of these new expenses are related to
Put me down,
standing
Chair.
up the ambassador program.
Through the chair to the councilwoman. So recruitment is, all of the department's recruitment is handled out of Public Safety Administration. So recruitment for police, fire, EMS, animal care control, et cetera, is handled out of administration. So that's one set of individuals and cost. The ambassador program is a specific program to bring in young individuals who have an interest in public safety careers, are too young to be a police officer, for example, and gives them an experience with the various work of the department, and hopefully serves as an entree into a longer-term career within one of the divisions of the Department of Public Safety.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if your committee has an update on the ambassador program at some point during this year, I'll look out for that to participate. And then my other question was related to transitioning, through the chair, transitioning public safety IT into IT. And just, I'm imagining that this is a budgetary neutral move. I'd like to confirm that it's neutral to the budget. And then also, is there a reason that public safety IT, that it was felt that they needed to move out of public safety?
Through the chair, yes. So it is budget neutral. We're just moving the people from public safety's budget into IT's.
Because I'm already mad
The
about this process.
thinking
You're all this
behind the
mess.
move is part of a broader effort to consolidate IT, all of our IT services into one organization. Right now, we have an approach where there are a variety of IT professionals kind of spread across the organization, which leads to some inefficiencies, frankly, in our operations. And so we're really working to consolidate our IT professionals into one group so that we are more effectively and efficiently able to deploy them to meet the IT needs of the city.
Thank you. I
Councilwoman.
recently had a chance to visit the Real-Time Crime Center and interacted with a number of public safety IT employees who were extremely knowledgeable and helpful. I hope that they are embracing this move. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I have a Councilman Slife.
Thank you.
Just to educate, again, as yesterday, the procedure is everyone's allotted 15 minutes for their first round. Go ahead.
I will not be using 15 minutes. So as I mentioned, and speaking through the chair to my colleagues, I made an attempt to kind of compare actuals with budgeted since 2022 forward, within this administration. And Public Safety Administration has basically been about 75% of its budget every year has been its actual. So looking at the total expenses for the department and seeing that it's lower than last year, I think that's actually prudent. I think it's worth mentioning that the $7 million unaudited for 2023, the budgeted amount was nearly $9 million. So when it comes to my point yesterday about where are we over budgeting and where can we be putting dollars to better serve our residents, I think that this is a good example of that. So I think credit where credit's due. Yes, you may.
Mr. Chair, may I ask for a point on that?
What's your
I
point?
just wanted to point out to, thank you to Councilman Slife, that it seems like a big reason that the budgeting is more modest is due to the relocation of numerous public safety IT employees. So it's not actually a tightening of the belt. It is a relocation of IT employees from this office to IT.
Sure.
So anyway.
Which is a fair. Thank you for the clarification. But I do think that it still stands with if there's a way to do things more efficiently and moving IT, which kind of gets me into my other question. It does seem, and I apologize if you had mentioned this when I was pulling up my spreadsheet, but the large decline in maintenance contracts, and then on the organizational chart, there's an assistant director of facilities and fleet management, so if the argument is that it's duplicative to have IT separate from the rest of city IT, we also have capital projects, fleet management, and other departments. Are there conversations, are there efficiencies in combining fleet management, combining facilities? Arguably, is this branch of Public Safety Administration more efficiently provided through Public Works and the Capital Projects Department?
Director?
Through the chairman, we haven't had those conversations yet, but I think it's part of an overall effort to identify those instances where we have, we maybe have a division of motor vehicle management that are the experts in fleet maintenance, and who else do we have around the city? What roles are they serving, and does it make sense for them to be in a separate division, or should they be in MVM, as an example? And so I think with IT, we've made a pretty consistent observation that it makes sense for our IT staff to be working together. And that may be the case when it comes to fleet, it may be the case when it comes to facilities, but that's an analysis that we have yet to do.
Okay, and so through the chair, I do think that'd be a worthwhile endeavor, especially since it's on the fleet side in particular. I would think a majority of our citywide fleet is public safety. So I'm not saying that there's not differences between, a fire truck is clearly different than a sedan, but a sedan that police officers drive in and a sedan that a public works supervisor would drive in, I would think would be much more comparable. So I would hope that that's moving forward an area that, to the degree that Public Safety Administration is a relatively small percentage of the overall Department of Public Safety. However, if there's an opportunity through efficiencies to provide more money to the 4 divisions that provide kind of citizen-facing services, I'd like for that to be our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The program the director touched upon the working with, I'm not sure, are we working with CMSD as relates to the cadet program?
Through the chairman, so
Sure.
there is the Explorers program, which is a partnership with CMSD. The Ambassador program, which is the one we had been discussing earlier, is for folks who have finished high school and are working to receive, working in the department to gain experience with the work of the Department of Public Safety and all the various divisions. They receive some state certifications, so they have classroom hours, and the goal is to build more of a pipeline from young people into the various divisions of the Department of Public Safety.
Now, I talked to the director about that, Mr. Chairman, and, we're going on quite some time on this whole proposition. Have we had any success in the program thus far? When do we look to see it being fruitful as relates to recruitment?
Director?
Through the chairman, it has not existed yet for a year, and I think it's probably too early to tell, to assess the success or not of the program. The first class of participants will complete their program this summer, and I think at that point we'd be in a better position to assess, the year, what worked, what didn't work, and make adjustments as needed.
And then how are we doing as it relates to being in those actual schools, talking about recruitment? How are we touching base? How are we cultivating and stimulating the culture to have those stables ready to bring these young folks in?
Director?
Through the chairman, I think, ultimately that's a question for the recruitment team. But, if you look at the programs and the efforts being made by the department to recruit, we have the Explorers program, which is focused on CMSD students. We have the Ambassadors program, which is the next sort of age cohort of 18 to 26-year-olds who are interested in public safety careers, and then the variety of recruitment events that the department has held, they hold regularly. They travel to area colleges, they travel to colleges outside of the area. We had the one-stop shop recruitment event last fall, in which hundreds of individuals walked away with conditional offers, for example, to join the Division of Police. So I think if you look at the spectrum of recruitment activity, where the department is hitting youth, young adults, and the rest with a variety of interventions.
Thank you. Councilman Jones?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I had a chance to talk to the director, but I didn't get a chance to talk in length to him about the recruitment. And this, Mr. Chairman, to our CFO, and I know you've heard about our colleague Kevin Bishop talked about how bad it was, him hearing the shots on the outside of his window. And I've experienced, unfortunately, the same situation. And yesterday morning at our gas station, we had an incident where someone was shot. And you can't totally control who has a gun today. I know the mayor made in his presentation the stupid policy, dumb, boneheaded, garbage policy created by the Republicans to put a gun in everybody's hands. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pass another law saying you can give every newborn a gun at birth. So that's how ridiculous the gun policies are and how they've had a profound and negative impact on urban communities. And it's sad that in America today, you can't even have a celebration of the Super Bowl without having a mass situation happen, a mass murder happen. And so it leads me to this question, because I don't like the fact that our numbers are going down. We are in a crisis mode, and I look at the money that's being expended here, and want to know, what is the recruitment goal? What should our numbers look like? How do we get more police on the streets? We've looked at all the polls. All the polling shows that Clevelanders' #1 priority is to have safety and police. When it comes to, Mr. Chairman, to the director, our businesses and how we retain our businesses in our neighborhoods, what helps me here at this table, I'm quite sure will help all the colleagues at this table, grow our communities. We can't grow our communities if we don't have safe communities. So what is our projection goes as relates to how many police officers are we truly looking to bring on? Do we
Right.
have a number? Do we have a chart? Can you tell me anything?
Director?
Through the chairman, as the mayor discussed in his presentation yesterday, we have 181 vacancies in the Division of Police within the Department of Public Safety, and our hope and expectation is that we fill each and every one of those vacancies.
Councilman?
So how you going to go do it? That's the question.
Director?
Through the chair, that is a terrific question for the recruitment team.
Well, then they should be here, and the director should be here if you can't answer it. And that's the problem I have with this process. So if you're going to be an artificial intelligence and sit here, you should be able to tell me, answer the questions I'm asking you.
Director?
Through the chair, as we discussed yesterday and the council president noted, we're the intent of these hearings is to focus on the budget and the operational implementation of recruitment is not something that's going to be reflected in the budget book.
Well,
Councilman?
I get the political policy prospect and the flowery words, but let me just say this, Mr. Chairman, to the director. I sit here at this table to deliver services to my citizens. And in this budget, the money that we're giving you is about the proposition of how we deliver those services. And in this session here is about having the directors at the table so that we can ask those questions, so they can tell us the reasons why we're giving them the money. So if I'm giving you the money, then I need to be able to see results to justify the reason why I'm giving you the money, if that makes sense. So not to be nasty or disrespectful to you, Director, but I have a crisis in my neighborhood. I've talked about this crisis for 6 years. I'm appreciative I have a new director now, a new commander rather. So I'm hoping that this commander can deliver some kind of justice and service to my citizens that we have not had in quite some time. So I'm hopeful that that will happen, but I know I need more bodies because I'm hearing that all the time, how bad the 4th District is, how we're bleeding police officers, and how we don't have enough help out there right now. And the morale is bad. So when I look at your budget here, Mr. Chairman, to the director, all I'm asking is how are we going to get more police up? Why should I want to sit here and be a vote to pass off on the budget? I'm getting the same thing each year in, each year out. So when I'm asking you these questions, it's not to be nasty. It's just to have an idea of where we are.
Thank you. Director, you have any response? No response. Councilman Jones, any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, to the director, we have 46 people that's in this division here on page 206. What are the, and I don't see that in this budget here. We had it in the previous budget, the breakdown of what they would be doing or a general idea of their titles. Can we get that?
Through the chairman, first on page 203 is the organizational chart for the division, which indicates the roles that are being provided. Second, over the weekend, I did provide an Excel sheet of all of the civil service classifications by division, which I believe was shared by the council clerk on Saturday.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me just say this because, again, like we talk about transparency and being able to get the information on time. Now, I was delivered this here. I got this. Is this what you're talking about?
Director?
Through the chair,
Liz,
it might be.
Can you hand that over and let him see this, please?
Through the chair, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have a page number. It's not organized. I got to go through all this paper here to try to figure out where your stuff is at in here. So all I'm going to say,
Through the chair,
Mr.
if I
Chairman,
might-
to the
Go-
director
wait a minute.
is if we could have, and I know you're doing it special this year, and I see 203, I got to wear glasses and got to have a magnifying glass like Mike Plinth just to break it down and really look at it. In years past, it was simple enough where I could see the listing. So if you could be so kind to put that back into the budget book, I would be so appreciative, Mr. Chairman, to the director. It's not like we're printing these budget books to give to everybody. We only got 17 members to print. It wouldn't be no problem with including that. If you could be so kind next year, Mr. Chairman, to the director, to put that in there so we can have that breakdown. I like the chart breakdown because it tells me who's responsible for who. So that's nice. But I'd like to have the breakdown there if you could be thoughtful enough to do that. And I didn't have any say on how this book was going to be created. I don't think none of the members of council did. And I know you're trying to do this to streamline it, to make it more efficient. So I appreciate the task, but it was sometimes some of these things that you've taken out was very helpful for us to be able to gauge. And some of the issues would be no-brainer to say, okay, yeah, this is the way it is. So and this is just constructive criticism. So if you could put that back in here, it's bad enough that we don't have the directors here. But make it easier for me on my side, if all possible, if you could, please, with sugar on top. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. And I wanted to speak in favor of the increased line item for the ambassadors. Actually, when Councilman Slife and I did the firefighter for a day, we met with some of the ambassadors and really diverse group of bright young people. So it seems like that program to recruit, younger people into the Department of Public Safety is something that we should scale. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilman? You had anything? No. Okay. Councilwoman Santana.
I feel bad taking, well, you know what, this one doesn't make sense because you have to respond.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, through the Chair Director, the safety medical unit that, it's the, I think the outside contractor that handles all the medical needs for the police, fire, and EMS, where's that reflected in the budget?
Through the chair, that is in the Division of Risk
Okay.
in the Finance Department.
So we're not there yet. Okay.
And the division of who?
Risk.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
That was it?
That was it.
Any other questions of the Committee or Public Safety Administration?
One question,
wait,
Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute, Councilman. On page 202, Director, at the very bottom, you indicated that 10 people were being moved out, but it says right there, maintains and provides technical support for all public safety IT needs.
Through the chair, that is accurate as of right now until this budget passes.
Okay. I guess that's fair enough. Okay, Councilman Jones, you had another follow-up question?
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman, I just noticed, it may have already been asked, on page 205, there is a significant decrease in the maintenance cost. And wanted to know what was that? Why is that so significant from 1.6 to 30,000?
Director?
Through the chair, that is the result of moving the variety of maintenance contracts that Public Safety Administration held with respect to its IT function, transferring those contracts over to the Division of ITS.
To the division of who?
Information Technology.
So then how much was transferred over?
Director?
The balance, it's approximately 1.275 million.
Mr. Jones, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, and where was it moved to in the budget book?
Through the chair, it was moved to IT.
Where is that at?
That's in the Finance Department.
Do you know what page? Does it show it and reflect where it's at?
Director?
Through the chair, it's on page 171, and it is reflected in the significant increase in the maintenance contract line item of $2.16 million.
I'm just now getting there. So you said 171, and where is it located? Mr. Chairman, to the director again?
Director?
Under maintenance contracts.
I'm there. And is it a part of the bottom line? Where it doesn't give me the 1 point.
Through the chair, it is part of the maintenance line item. There are other contracts that were moved over. There was IT staff in police and in the DOJ that was moved to ITS as well. And so there's other expenses in addition to that, which was transferred from Public Safety Administration.
Okay. So the Department of Finance is actually going to start dealing with those issues from out of public safety as relates to maintenance cost.
Through the chair, yes, in collaboration with the Department of Public Safety.
And can you elaborate? And all of this is more or less the computer maintenance contracts that we have. All this is dealing with technology, correct?
Through the chair, yes.
And there's nothing else other than that.
Through the chair, it's there is some amount for building maintenance in that line item that deals with maintenance at 205 St. Clair, which is split. There's some IT is there, CCA, the Council Archives, and the Emergency Operations Center, other police-related IT functions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the Director. No further questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Without any further questions, we're going to move on to Division of Animal Care and Control. Staff?
Page 224, Division of Animal Care and Control, Manager Bruce Campbell. Page 226, 2023 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,498,449. 2024 budgeted, $2,021,601. 2023, page 227, 2023 unaudited total expenditures, $2,966,223. 2024 budgeted, $3,754,933. Page 228, number of employees as of December 2023, 34. Budgeted 2024, 44. Chair.
Okay. Director, would you comment about the reduction in staff from 2023?
Yes, through the chair. This is a division that has held a lot of vacancies, and I think to the theme of Councilman Slife's commentary earlier, and this is part of the idea behind the vacancy pool that we discussed quite a bit yesterday. We removed, I believe it was 3 vacancies from animal care control, so it still has 5 vacancies, and obviously if it fills those, it will be able to draw additional positions from the vacancy pool, but that is the
Excuse me, sorry. Go ahead.
that is the explanation, and then the reason for the increased appropriation despite that is because of the fact that the division has had a large number of vacancies. We're budgeting at full staff of 33 for 2024, and so you see increases with respect to full-time salary, benefits, et cetera, as a result.
Okay. But do you, the question I posed to you, are you aware of the concerns the members of council have with regard to animal care and control, how important it is to us? You've reduced the number of staff, and then on page 225, you have virtually cut overtime in half. So I'm trying to understand how we're going to be able to effectively deal with this growing problem in the city with regard to animal control and the concerns that members of City Council have. So, can you elaborate how the administration is going to address our concerns and the concerns of our citizens?
Through the chair, yes. So, aware of the importance of animal care control across the city. With respect to the overtime number, we are anticipating that the vacancies get filled in the division, and as a result, the amount of overtime needed will be reduced. Of course, if that does not pan out, I would anticipate we would see overtime levels consistent with what we've seen the last couple of years. But the primary goal is to recruit and get folks into the division to provide those functions as full-time employees. But of course, if they're not able to do that, overtime will certainly be needed to fulfill the mission of the division.
Okay. On page 227, revenue, explain the revenue column. Where does that come from?
Through the chair, that is the result of adoption fees paid by folks who adopt animals from the division.
Okay. So it's not spay or neuter or anything like that, it's just adoption fees?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, members of the committee. Councilman Jones.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, we have on page number 224, the number of animals trapped. How many people or how many folks in this department are going out or are responsible for trapping, I would presume, raccoons and groundhogs? I'm not sure, so you might make that clear. What are they trapping?
Director?
Through the chair, there are, we're budgeted for, there's the chief animal control officer, and then reporting to the chief animal control officer are 12 full-time budgeted positions and 2 part-time positions.
So how many people are trapping animals?
Director?
13 full-time individuals and 2 part-time. And the division also has a contractual service with an organization to augment the wildlife removal that the division is able to do with its full-time staff.
What organization?
Through the chair, I don't know the name of the company, but it is a $100,000 contract.
Okay. And one of the things that is really important is there was a time we just dealt with just dogs. And now we got all of these other issues going on. One of the major issues that I have, and it's like still an ongoing issue, and I don't know how we begin the proposition to remedy it, but we need to look into it, is all of these deers. The deer have absolutely, Mr. Chairman, to the director, just overrun our neighborhood now. I have tracks, they're eating my cedar trees in my yard. They're eating all my flowers. I can't put certain flowers out anymore in my yard because now they're eating them. And I have to go and buy all of these products to spray around to try to get them out of my yard. The neighbors are complaining. Just the other day, I'm driving down South Miles, and there's 15 of them. And I thought after I saw the first 5, that was it. But then I saw the rest of them coming. And so what I'm sharing, Mr. Chairman, to the director, what can we do about deer? Because I've had calls coming in, and they wanted me to talk to the fella who is over the department. So now since I have you versus Bruce Campbell, I know that you have all the money. And you might be able to put something in there to start talking about how we deal with the issue of the population of deers increasing in the city of Cleveland.
So through the chairman, as I understand it, in the city, the control of the deer population is handled by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And so we would have to work collaboratively with ODNR to identify alternate ways to increase the work to control the deer population so that this nuisance is abated.
Who is ODNR?
The Ohio Department of Natural Resources.
And I have never seen them out here. So how many deer have they killed in the city of Cleveland?
They haven't killed any.
I mean, how many have they removed, or however they do it?
Okay.
Through the chair, I do not know the state of Ohio's deer
Right.
culling practices
So
or the
that's
amount.
the reason why.
Okay, through the chair, thank you.
That's the reason why, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking the question, because, I can't tell my people ODNR are going to come out here and save them. They want to know what we're actually doing. So if we have, do we have a contractual or some kind of partnership with them that they're doing this?
Director?
Through the chair, as I understand, the division works collaboratively with ODNR to identify the work that needs to be done to cull the deer population. How effective that is another question.
And
but I
so
know
will
that
Bruce
the division-
Campbell have that information to tell me?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. So when can we set up a meeting with Bruce Campbell so he can start telling us when he going to help us deal with this issue? Because it's
Correct.
a major issue, Mr. Chairman.
Director?
Through the chair, whenever you like.
I see. And so, is there a possibility that we could put some money in on this? We have this Division of Animal Control. What can the city do to help curb the population? If, for an example, I do a deep dive and find out, oh, DNR ain't doing nothing in the city of Cleveland. Because
Director?
you don't know, do you? Are they doing something in the city of Cleveland?
Through-
Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Through the chair, the budget is built based on the division's requests, and the division request did not include anything specific to deer culling. If that is a need, then of course that's something that we would explore, identifying the resources to accomplish.
Yeah, and I don't know what we do about it, but it is a big issue. At one point, it was isolated, Mr. Chairman, to the director,
Yes.
to our wooded areas. Now, the deer population has gotten so explosive that they're in neighborhoods that we've seen them, we've never seen them in those locations before. So if you could take that under consideration, Mr. Chairman, to see if there's any possibilities to
Okay.
kind of help here, or I can talk to Mr. Campbell and then see that hopefully he might be able to help us out in the Lee Harvard area.
Okay. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones, in the past, the Department of Public Safety had been unwilling to implement a deer culling issue. So that's where I can tell you firsthand, because I have a tremendous problem myself, along with Councilman Harrison. At this point, they've been unwilling to do that. So, okay, Councilman Slife.
Thank you. Through the chair, could the chief repeat the staffing of animal care and control and its relationship with the vacancy pool?
Yes, through the chairman. So the division was budgeted in 2023 with 36 full-time employees. This year, it's 33, and so there was 3 positions moved into the pool.
Okay. I think that I also get calls about dogs and other issues. So I think we all value animal control. But the thing that jumps off the page to me is that this is another department that has not come close to spending its budget year over year. So if you go back through 23 and 22, we budgeted for $3.7 million, and we came up at about 2.9. So I appreciate that this is not maybe a question best answered by the Director of Finance, but if there are year over year inabilities to come to full staffing, at what point do we lower staffing further and allow some sort of budgetary amendment throughout the year if we're successful? But again, I said to the mayor yesterday, if the argument is that we shouldn't be parking money in departments where it can't be spent, this seems to be a case where that may have been happening over the last couple of years. I'm not saying that as a judgment against anybody. It's just the numbers as I see them. So that I will be, I'm putting that out to the audience and to the members. I'm not going to ask an operational question so narrow about hiring and the challenges of hiring. I wouldn't anticipate the chief of finance would be the best person to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman House Jones.
Good morning. This is to the chairman. Just a clarification. Have we ever had the actual, in the operational meetings, I guess the director of animal control come talk to us, and it might have been when I was gone on my wedding. So just a point of clarification, did we talk about an actual strategy for groundhogs?
The only thing that they indicated to us that they would continue to contract out, I believe it was with Critter Control, if I'm not mistaken.
So this is, I guess this is my request. We have requested, at least since I've been here, to actually get an actual ecological study or something, because something is happening with the enormous amount of groundhogs that are destroying people's properties. And to have a division of animal control that has no solutions, that has not told us about migration patterns, anything that is causing this issue is problematic. So my question is that in the budget, which I don't see it, to do an actual analysis of understanding the what is happening with the overabundance of groundhogs in the city of Cleveland that is causing significant infrastructure damage to people's homes?
Okay. So, staff, did you hear that request? Okay.
No, I'm asking, is it in the budget? Because I wasn't here in the
okay.
operation. I don't
Director?
see it. It could be somewhere else. but-
Director?
Through the chair, there is no specific fund, there are no specific funds earmarked for that kind of effort. I would expect, would certainly look to the division for confirmation. I would expect that that kind of information is the variety that we could obtain by working collaboratively with the state of Ohio and other organizations that have, frankly, better resources and better expertise to really study those issues and understand them. I think, what we have is an operational division that goes out and catches animals and releases them. I don't know that we have the ecologists and others on staff to handle that, and would work with others to bring that expertise in-house.
So I think this is, through the chair, to the chief, I clearly understand what our capabilities are. But similarly, for other things, the city of Cleveland invests in consultants and everything else. And I think, to me, it's a bit disheartening to see that we are not prioritizing to actually look at this. Even though coming in, we know that it is causing significant damage. And this is one of the things, as had the conversation, with the mayor of how people are feeling unsatisfied. This is one of those areas where it's like we're just leaving it to the wind. We know it's the problem. No one has actually put any care and investment. I can tell you I have, but I'm one person. I've contacted ODNR. I've been contacting universities. When I go to National League of Cities, I've talked to other people. People send me stuff, but I'm not the administration. That's one of the things of trying to understand, where is the effort? Not saying we're going to do it, but it's been 2 years now. No effort has been done, and this budget is not reflective to saying we're putting an investment in something that means something to everyday citizens. And again, this was prompted me, the reason why I'm asking this question, because I had a resident that said, what about the groundhogs?
Yeah. Okay, and to the director, based on Councilwoman House Jones, she has brought this up for 2 years in a row. Other members have brought it up. The response that we've been given for the explosion when it's been discussed at the table has been for the number of vacant lots and the number of vacant homes in the city of Cleveland. That's for why the explosion. But we have not been given any explanation as to what course of action will be taken by the city to try to abate the problem.
And can I just add to that, Chairman? And the reason why, again, understanding the source, but more importantly, it is my hypothesis, is that this is not a one-off strategy. The strategy that we currently have in animal control is not suffice. To have arbitrarily just people call in to pick up one groundhog when the other 15 people on your street are not baiting, I really believe that we need to have a different strategy. That is the reason why I've been asking, well, maybe if we can have an understanding of what is driving it, then we as a city would then be able to come up with a more effective strategy to then reduce the unintended consequences of community members' homes being destroyed as a byproduct of the groundhogs. That has been the reason, and I've been requesting it, but we are just, it seems like this is our strategy. And if that is the strategy, like we're not looking into it, this is the best that we could do, then I think we need to just tell Clevelanders that.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to follow up on a couple of the points that Councilman Slife made, and noting that the kennel is in Ward 15. It's about a quarter mile from my house. So I don't stop in as nearly as often as I'd like to, but I do want to speak to this question of budgeting as it relates to vacancies. There has absolutely been a chronic understaffing of the kennel. There was the position that Bruce Campbell currently holds was vacant for quite an extended period of time. So the director position, the manager position for all of animal care and control was vacant. There are other reasons why filling these positions has been a challenge. There has been, as a result, an over-reliance, a severe over-reliance on volunteer capacity through the City Dogs organization to manage some of the basic functioning of the kennel, meaning adoptions. People show up to adopt animals and there aren't staff available for various reasons. And it's just been this chronic understaffing and a chronic push on the volunteers to make up capacity. And I know that they are passionate about this work, but it is not sustainable. So I would simply wanting to, again, follow up on what Councilman Slave stated. I would be willing and open to entertain a conversation about further reducing staff positions a year from now, after Bruce Campbell has been given an opportunity to fill these critically needed positions. These should not be volunteer functions or responsibilities. These should be city staff doing this work. It has been extremely difficult to attract and retain the talent for a multitude of reasons. But I think that we do need to monitor this. It has been year over year. It's been a long period of time. I wish Mr. Campbell all the best in this significant challenge he needs to take on to staff up appropriately. I don't know if council can be helpful in any way, perhaps through the chair to the administration, take that back to the division or whomever. How can we help? I don't know if we can, but it's really been chronic and ongoing for a long period of time. However, those vacancies are absolutely necessary for the basic functioning of the kennel and the division at large. But again, a year from now, if we're still in the same spot, that'll be quite a different conversation. So I wanted to make note of that. I also wanted to apologize. I believe Councilman Jones already spoke to this, but I wanted to one more time request clarification under contractual services of the $400,000 for professional services, for a breakout or detail on that number through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, so the $400,000 of contractual services is in two basic categories. One is $100,000 for wildlife removal with critter control. And then the rest is three separate contracts relating to animal care. So whether it be animal hospital services at the West Park Animal Hospital, I believe it's called, the APL, and then and another veterinary service firm that I believe is going to be put out to a bid for the services. So there's $300,000 allocated to kind of the medical care of animals and $100,000 for wildlife removal.
And then through our chair, given the kind of extensive discussion and concerns we've heard from colleagues about the wildlife removal question, I would ask whether $100,000 for critter control is sufficient. Is that number remain consistent year over year? Is that a discussion we should be having? Gratefully, I think in Ward 15, although we do get complaints about wildlife, I think it is more acute in various neighborhoods of the city, and wanted to raise that question through the chair.
Thank you. I think it's a very valid question. So again, to the director and to our research staff, I would request that professional service line item be broken down, more detailed explanation for members of the council. And with regard to the $100,000 for critter control, what does that equate into the number of groundhogs, skunks, possums, whatever are being trapped in the city as it pertains to the number? So we'll make that request. I too would question whether that's sufficient in light of the growing problem that we're having in the city. And again, I want to say to the director, to the administration, this is a quality of life issue, which is of great concern to the council.
Through the chair, I know I have a groundhog that lives in my backyard.
Okay. And I hope you're not feeding them, but that's okay.
My son might.
Okay. Any other questions for the director? Any members of the body? There was a question? No, okay. We will move on. Staff,
Page 229, Division of Corrections.
229?
229.
Okay.
Corrections Liaison, Lisa Scafidi. Page 230, 2023 unaudited salaries and wages, $152,741. 2024 budgeted, $154,790. 2023 unaudited total expenditures, $3,248,769. 2024 budgeted, $4,060,145. Page 231. Number of employees as of December 2023, 2. Budgeted 2024, 2. Chair.
Okay. So, Director, to the viewing public, and I want to always make sure that the viewing public understands what we're doing here, because I learned with issue 38, a lot of folks, whether they voted for it or against it, really didn't understand how the general fund budget functions. So when you look at this division, House of Corrections, and there's only 2 employees, but it's a $4 million budget, explain that to the citizens who are watching this.
Sure. To the chairman. So looking back in history, the city used to operate its own jail system. Several years ago, the decision was made to not do that and instead to enter into a contractual arrangement with the county so that the county would provide that service on our behalf. As a result, the budgeted staff in the division decreased precipitously, as now it's really an organization devoted to managing a contractual relationship with the county of Cuyahoga. So the vast majority of the expense of the division is in the contractual services line item and is related really to 2 things. One is the per day rate of a city inmate in the county jail. And then second, a lesser amount devoted to pre-booking medical services for city inmates in the county jail.
Okay. So what is the cost per inmate per day?
Through the chair, under the agreement that we have with the county, the original and current rate is $99 a day per inmate.
And we pay that to the county's general fund?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay. Per day, per inmate?
Correct.
Okay. The question that was posed to me, why are we still calling it House of Corrections, Division of Corrections? Why aren't we, since you folks are into this reimagining, why aren't we reimagining this?
To the chairman, I would have to confirm, but I suspect it has to do with the name of the organization in the codified ordinances or perhaps the charter. It could be a charter issue.
Okay. I would ask, again, through you, Director, and to staff, if we can take a look, is that a charter name? And can it be reimagined to better reflect what we're doing in today's world? Okay. Questions of the committee. Any questions? House of Corrections. Councilman Slife.
Guess I'm going to be that guy today, guys. Yeah, can you, through the chief, the bulk of this is obviously the contractual relationship. The number of the unaudited 2023 number of 2.9 million is much lower than the actuals the previous years. We've talked at length at this table about our challenges with crime, and one would, I guess, assume that this number would track alongside the crime rate. Can you just give us a little bit of information on how you guys came to the $3.75 million number? I'm sorry, the $3 million number this year for other contractual services, and just what the theory is and how you come to that number year over year.
Yeah, through the chairman to the councilman. So the ability to correlate inmate days and the crime rate is not perfect because we are only responsible for paying the daily rate for individuals who are incarcerated for violating the city code. So if someone if they're arrested by a police officer and booked for violating for committing a state crime, then that's a county prisoner. The county pays for that prisoner. And then similarly, the real work that this division does, and they are terrific at it, is vetting the bills we get from the county, which are not always the most accurate. And so there's a lot of back and forth between our staff and the county to really ensure that what we're getting billed for is what is owed by the city. So that's one of the reasons why the number fluctuates year to year. For the sake of ensuring that we have enough funds to cover this, we sort of estimate around the same every year of 3,700 inmate days. But we know, just based on past experience, that it's going to fluctuate. It could be a little higher, it could be a little lower, based on what's happening in the community.
Okay, thank you. To the chair, I fear that the chief has unintentionally opened a bit of a can of worms for me. There's a piece of legislation pending before council right now that would update the city code to align with state law and a number of distracted driving, things like that. And I think the argument, so this is all new, this is me thinking in live time, I apologize everybody, but the argument that we've heard is that if someone is charged under city law, then we reap any fines that they are charged. But we're now also hearing that if people are charged under state law, that the county has to absorb the cost of jail. So I think that now there's a question of which one costs more. Where's the benefit? Do we receive more? What is the status of municipal court issuing fines under municipal law and the success of collections versus what we are paying out in having to, pay for people to be in county jail? And do we need to have a discussion amongst ourselves of which one is more advantageous from a financial standpoint? I know that's a strange, we are not seeking to make money off of people in the criminal justice system. However, I think that there is a credits and debits argument here about what are we, are there costs that otherwise would be incurred by the county that we are having to take on? So that's more than we can discuss at this table, but that'll be a fun little adventure. We should go on that soon. Thank you.
Any other questions of the committee, House of Corrections, Division House of Corrections? Without any further ado, we'll move on. Thank you. Next division.
Page 235, Department of Justice, Chief Dornat Drummond. Page 236, 2023 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,310,035. 2024 budgeted, $1,001,306. 2023, page 237, 2023 unaudited total expenditures, $3,282,326. 2024 budgeted, $4,663,519. Number of employees as of December 2023, 7. Budgeted 2024, 8. Chair.
Okay. Director. You care to say anything?
Through the chair, only that to remind the council that the Department of Justice is one of the organizations required by the consent decree, and its role is to assess the public safety's efforts to comply with the requirements of the consent decree.
Okay, on page 236, excuse me, there explain the uniform, the substantial increase in uniform personnel. What is that attributed to?
Through the chair, I believe that is the result of the combination of the 27th pay and the pay increases for the uniformed personnel.
Okay, and then why such a substantial decrease in overtime there?
I believe there is less training on the schedule this year, and also the way we've set up overtime in the new collective bargaining agreement that established the 12-hour shifts. We don't have built-in overtime in the schedule. So there should just be less overtime for uniformed personnel across the board.
Okay, you told us that last year, and overtime doubled.
Through the chair, we did not have the 12-hour shifts last year.
Okay. Well, we're going to be watching it closely. Under contractual services, professional services, again, a substantial increase.
Yes, that's for a specific set of training that is sort of behavior-based training for our officers as part of the Division of Police's efforts to comply with the requirements of the consent decree.
Okay. And under other contractual, again, a substantial increase
Through the
on page,
chair.
on page 236.
Yes, that is driven largely by an increase in the requested budget by the monitor under the consent decree.
You got to be kidding me.
Through the chair, I am not.
So, wait a minute. We went from unaudited, $733,358. Excuse me, $728,000. I'm looking at a different line item. $728,284 to $2.6 million.
Through the chair, we are, the monitor's ask was in the realm of $2.5 million for 2024. In addition to the $2.5 million, there is some additional funds in this line item for some survey work to be done in connection with the work of the Department of Justice, but the $2.5 million of that is in connection with the monitor.
I don't, Director, how could we have agreed to $750 an hour? How did the city come to that?
Through the chair, I want to be really clear. We have not agreed to this rate. We are working to reduce it with the court, but ultimately, if this is what the court says we have to pay, it's what we have to pay.
I mean, talk about cha-ching. I mean, this is some serious money.
Yes.
So, okay. Members of the committee, questions? Because this is, I don't see, I got to be very blunt, I don't see them going anywhere. You're making $750 an hour. What is the rationale? What is the incentive for you to leave? There is none. There is none. And so we are continuing to be on the hook to the monitor. And by the way, so all members, the monitor will be before us in April. We did not want to schedule a different time and date because of the $750 an hour. We wanted to bring them to the table when they're in town to try to reduce the cost to the city. So they will be in here in April to give us a report as to what their game plan has been up to this point, and what their recommendations, or what they have their report. So we'll learn in April. Okay, questions of the committee? Yes, there's anybody? Councilman Starr.
Yes, Chair, I think you really brought up a good point. My question is, when they do come in April, before then, or sometime possibly through our staff with the administration, can we get a really overall breakdown of what they do, of some type of invoice that is very detailed on what their actual plans has been, what has been purchased with this 750, what does it actually look like? Because there's some things we need to really fight on, and advocate on why it doesn't make sense. Because like you said, this number just keeps increasing, and it's looking like they're getting paid to do some stuff that we already know, or some things like that. So I would love to get a breakdown from an actual budgetary standpoint, what it is to cost, what is actually being paid for. And that's something that is very important.
And to the Councilman Starr and to the director, these are attorneys, so they do have to provide documentation on billable hours, correct?
Through the chair, the monitor himself is an attorney. The
Yeah.
team is a mix of attorneys and non-attorneys.
Okay, so again, you've heard the request, is that I would hope the administration would start to prepare that documentation, so when they come to the table in April, that we will have who's been paid, what they've been paid, their billable hours, et cetera, so we can get a good perspective and overview as to the costs associated with the monitoring team. Yes, Ms.
Yep,
Townsend.
and also another thing, Chair, as far as the monitoring team, what was the process of selecting this team? Was there something that we had to choose someone from out of state or out of town or something like that? If so, how long is that contract up for them? And if not, if there's any opportunities to explore some in-town, in-state, or something locally to be able to do the same work.
Okay. Director, you care to comment?
Through the chair to the councilman, the monitor is selected by the court.
Okay, and then the court selected them for what duration of the time period?
Director?
Through the chair, I don't believe that there is a time period, an explicit time period, but the monitor serves at the pleasure of the court.
And through the chair to the chief, and they have been doing this work for how many years? When was the actual start date?
Director?
Through the chair, this monitoring team was put in place, I believe, last year. There was the prior monitor announced his resignation early in 2023, and the current monitor, Carl Racine, was selected by the court last year.
And through the chair, that monitor team that was there before the 2023 team was assembled, what was their cost?
Through the chair, I think historically the cost has been around $1 million a year, plus or minus. This year's request is much greater than we've seen in any prior year.
And through the chair, can we also request that we get some data and information and a similar breakdown of the monitor team that we had previously in place and the work that they did?
Yes.
So we could include that and compare and contrast what we currently have now in place versus that.
Thank you. We're requesting
Thank you, and that's
that
all, Chair. I yield.
through the director, his team, and also our staff as well. Any other questions? Yes, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. No, I appreciate Councilman Starr's line of questioning, and I look forward to the April hearing. It seems historically like the monitoring team is elusive when it comes to details about the pay, but it's frustrating because the federal judges appointed by the president is responsible to the citizens of the United States of America, just as we are to the citizens of Cleveland. So I think every dollar spent needs transparency. And this idea that the monitor, because they're independent of the city, is not responsible to account for their work or their pay scales, how they got those pay scales, because they're not legally required or whatever to the city, but they are to the United States government. And the United States government is responsible to the citizens of the United States, which is us. So, I mean, I hope as we get through in that April hearing that there is as we have to do with any dollar we spend, it's public information, it's publicly accessible, it's publicly discoverable. I mean, these are City of Cleveland taxpayer dollars. How are they being spent? How did we get to the $750 an hour? I mean, to, again, back up what Councilman Starr was just saying, I mean, to me that they're not, the federal judge, the monitor, they are responsible to the citizens. They have to be. They have to be accountable to the citizens. So I really hope that they come forward with the spirit of transparency in April, because this is a ton of money of City of Cleveland taxpayer dollars, and we have to understand where they're going, how they're being used, how pay scales were set, all those types of things. I think it's really important. And I hope they come with transparency. Mr. Chairman, if they don't, I mean, I think that this council should reach out to the Biden administration, Merrick Garland, to ask for intervention on that, to ensure that the citizens of Cleveland, who of course are the citizens of the United States as well, have accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Santana.
No, it was Slife and then Casey.
Okay, excuse me. Slaife, Councilman Slaife.
Building on what my colleagues have said through the chair, to the chief, do you know if our congressional delegation has been engaged? As if we are trying to work with the court to lower these costs, has our congressional delegation been tapped into any of these conversations. Do you know, to your knowledge?
Through the chair, I'm not aware.
Okay. I would also be interested in seeing kind of the breakdown of the hours, and just bluntly, my hunch is it costs so much money because the courts selected a law firm based out of Washington, D.C., and it costs a lot more to live and work in Washington, D.C., and instead of working with a law firm that is charging the going rate in Cleveland, or a law firm located in a more affordable part of the country, we are essentially subsidizing some attorney's note on his German car driving home into Potomac, Maryland. And that is what is happening. And I think that if I'm also just interested in pushing the courts and working with our congressional delegation to underscore that this is one of the highest poverty large cities in the country, and that the rates that are going rates in other parts of the country are just not affordable, and these are dollars that, instead of going to community policing, are being thrown at attorneys. It's frustrating. So I think I share it, but I guess the takeaway is, if our congressional delegation isn't engaged with the conversations that Councilman McCormick suggested, I would hope that they can be in short order. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, it's been no secret that I've not been a fan of this since its inception because of the amount of money that it's costing us. And Mr. Chairman, I do know that in National League of Cities and the crime prevention and public safety and crime prevention, this will be one of the initiatives that we take up this year to advocate to Congress to put a sunset on these consent decrees. I think it's the city of Newark just got out of their consent decree after 50 years. So there's no end in sight.
50 years.
But in regards, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the $750 an hour that we're now paying, the city had to agree to that, correct?
Through the chair, we have, last week, we had a call with the monitoring team raising our concerns in opposition to the total amount of fee and the hourly rate, and that, frankly, the timing on which the request was given to us. We received the request on December 28th, which felt a little late in our process. Ultimately, it's up to the court. The court will tell us what we have to pay or not.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but what happens if we just stop paying?
Through the chair, I would imagine a whole host of bad things, including contempt of court and not general noncompliance with the consent decree, which would only unfortunately probably increase the duration of the consent decree.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, and I've said it before, I believe that we needed this back when it came into play in the city of Cleveland. But there also comes a time where you're never going to become compliant because we're a cash cow for a law firm sitting not only in D.C., but a lot of individuals locally have made close to hundreds of thousands of dollars in this. And at some point, the city's going to have to take a stance and say, listen, we believe we're in compliance, and we're done. And then let the chips fall where they may, because the DOJ is never going to let us out of it. The monitoring team is never going to say that we're in compliance enough to say goodbye to the monitors. So at some point, the city's going to have to take a stance for itself and roll the dice. And we're spending $5 million a year on this, and we've seen the changes in the way that our police department is trained. We've seen that firsthand. There's a difference between an individual who joins the police force now and somebody who joined it 15 or 20 years ago. And I believe that we're changing the policing's attitude toward civilians just by attrition, and with the way that we're now training our our police force. And I believe they're on the right track. But at some point, the city's going to have to say enough is enough, that it's costing us more than $5 million. We are one of the poorest cities, and we're paying a bigwig sitting in Washington, D.C., who knows more about paper than he does probably the streets, $750 an hour, and it's just not fair to the citizens of the city of Cleveland. Again, I appreciate everything they've done in changing, you know, the way that that helped change the philosophy of the police department, but at some point, the city's going to have to say enough is enough. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilwoman House Jones.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just as we've had this conversation, again, through the chair to the chief there. So have we had the conversation directly with Judge Oliver?
Through the chair, I believe it's scheduled to happen, but it has not happened yet. We had the meeting with the monitor and his team last week. I believe it was last week, to lodge our complaints directly. And now any of these disputes have to get settled by the judge.
Right. So this is the thing. I think this is kind of if this has been such an issue, I guess, I'm putting it on the city and those of us in office. We need to. There's no point of having a conversation with the monitor, right? The monitor is a selection from the Department of Justice and the judge, correct?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, so have a conversation with the judge to arrange to see what could be done. I also just want to say, I know people talk about how much it is costing the city, really understanding how we got here. Right? We didn't get here because we were doing everything well and that we were holding ourselves to a standard where people could believe in our city and to believe in the way that we were carrying out justice in a fair and equitable way. And then I guess comparatively, do we have the cost of how much has the city of Cleveland paid out in settlements due to any misconduct? Do we have those numbers?
Director?
Through the chair, we can provide them. I believe we have them, but they haven't been updated maybe a year, so we can easily provide that.
Yes, if we can get that, because again, I think that's a comparable cost analysis to understand what we have paid for not being our best self in the service of the city of Cleveland. And so I think we also, as we are talking about how much it costs, I think there also needs to be a level of investment and commitment all across the board in ensuring that the things that have been outlined are actually carried out. We say we want to get out of this, but how I mean, look at the report. We still have some significant things that need to be accomplished. And so I guess, for those of us that are here in council, we absolutely need to look at the deficiencies and things where we are coming up short and make the focus, the priority to getting these things accomplished. So that's what I will say with this, but I would be really helpful to get that information, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Jones.
This is a complicated situation. It's not a situation that, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that is indicative to just the city of Cleveland. This is racism. And sometimes when you nail it on the head, some folks get upset about it. I think one of the most difficult times I had, Mr. Chairman, to the director, was explaining to my 14-year-old son about the do's and the don'ts as he was preparing to learn how to drive and what our expectations were of him. Being an American citizen, but being African American, can be very dangerous when you're driving in a numerous amount of cities as you're driving, if you have to go from here to Ohio or to Michigan or to Florida or whatever you're doing. There's a whole way you have to train your kids. And it was really hard, Mr. Chairman, when I had to tell my son that no matter what the situation is, no matter how you might feel that you're right and that the police officer is wrong, if they tell you to do something, you comply. Is no, sir. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And it was a difficult point because my daughter is just like me. She pushes the envelope on every turn. And so she stands up, she says, Daddy, now why do I gotta do what they tell me to do if they were wrong? And I said, well, baby girl, they'll put you in jail. And then if they put you in jail, they may do something else to you. And then during that period of time, me explaining that to her, the young lady was pulled over. She didn't comply with the police officers, and then they found her dead in the jail cell. Now, when we look at all of the deaths all across America, I mean, it would take a blind person not to understand that there's an issue all across this country. And when you can shoot unarmed black men at will, we're still grappling with the Tamir Rice issue in this city. And I will say, Mr. Chairman, you know, when you're a black male in this country, you have to always dot all your I's and cross your T's. You're always being scrutinized for everything that you do. And the unfortunate part about it is the fact that you can be unarmed and shot and killed. How many times have we seen that? And I've talked to some of the police officers here in this city. And there are those, and I believe this, 90% of our men and women do a fantastic job. And the reason why I say 90% versus 99%, because there is a small group that has hostility in their soul, in their spirit, in their heart. I have experienced it being a citizen in this city. And I understand how it feels. Whenever, anytime that alarm goes off and them sirens are going off, I become afraid. And as old as I am, I still realize I don't know the person that's coming up to the car, what their mindset is, how angry they may be, or what kind of trauma they've been through. I got both of my hands on the steering wheel. I got my driver's license, as old as I am, up at the top. Officer, my driver's license, my registrations is right here. So I share to you, Mr. Chairman, that black people are traumatized, even if they don't experience it, when they turn on the TV set and see all of the stuff that's happening all across the landscape of America. Now, do we need more training? Becomes the question, Mr. Chairman. And I know you said a lot is in the report. Can you talk about, Mr. Chairman, based upon what we're talking about here, the creation of this here, how many or how successful have we been with training our police officers? Because what we found was that the best trained police forces are the best serving the citizens depending on where you're located. So what do we have in the budget, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO that is training our police officers? And I, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO, I brought this issue up from day one in 2018 for 6 years, from one administration to the next administration. Because when I looked at the budget previously, in the departments, there was no line item for training police officers. So where is that line item? How do we train them? Have we increased that budget? And again, so it won't be taken out of context, I believe that our men and women do a great job here in the city of Cleveland, but there's a handful, unfortunately, is the reason why we have to pay this kind of money every year.
Director?
Through the chairman of the councilman, so in this division's budget, there's a significant amount, 500,000 or so, devoted to behavior-based training for our uniformed officers. The balance of any training expenses would be in the Division of Police's budget, which we'll get to, I think.
So in this budget, it's about 500,000?
For the services, and then there's additional expense for overtime so that the officers are able to actually do the training. We're able to cover the cost of them working the extra time to get the training.
And I know that we have, you know, thanks to the administration, because I looked at some of the numbers as it relates to the increases and what the mayor has talked about. We stand what? And we're at number 7, one of the highest. Can you talk about that a little bit more, elaborate on that?
Through the chair, for patrolman compensation?
That's right.
Yes, so with the increases that took effect on January 1st, across the state, we're in the 75th percentile in the top pay for the most senior patrol position. That includes a lot of smaller communities that pay incredibly high salaries. I think another useful way to think about it is among the 10 largest cities in the state, we are number 3 in the top pay, behind Columbus and Cincinnati. We're pretty close to Cincy. Columbus is in a whole different league. I believe the top pay in their contract right now is $106,000 for a patrolman, which is far and away the highest among the large cities.
Councilman?
And Mr. Chairman, given that that's the case here, we have the Community Police Commission. How do they play a part in this as relates to recruiting and training?
Through the chair, I believe in the charter they have some role with respect to both of those aspects. I'm not sure exactly how that's being interpreted at the moment by either side of the equation, but they are an independent entity created by the voters through issue 24 and have a real role to play in how we recruit and train and operate as a division of police.
Now, on this, it says to have the ability to collaborate with a diverse cross-section of the community. The Division of Police will ensure all officers receive adequate training to understand how to effectively and safely, in accordance with the policies and the requirements of the consent decree of Ohio, to be able to understand the different neighborhoods of Cleveland. How does that done?
Through the chair, that's done through the various training efforts that the Department of Justice implements. I think the behavior-based training is a key component of that in helping our officers understand sort of the human behavioral emotional aspect of these interactions so that they can end in a more successful way without incident.
And so is the Chief Drummond is responsible for this?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And I guess, Mr. Chairman, we'd have to bring him in so I could ask the kind of questions I want to ask. And that would be, unless the director would know, what is, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the accountability to ensure, how do we justify the expenditure and what are we getting for it?
Through the chair, to a certain extent, we have frankly little choice. This is an obligation of the city placed on us under the consent decree. And so a lot of these organizations that we've just discussed didn't exist before the consent decree. So we had to create them. This is part of the compliance structure that the Department of Justice has required us to create. And the accountability really is one through the management of the administration, right? The mayor holds every chief and director accountable for the operations of his or her departments, but also every year the monitoring team puts out its report and assesses our compliance with the consent decree, and if we're falling short, they do not hesitate to highlight those shortcomings.
I see. So then we would taking a look at the report as part of it, and then the administration on the administration side, dealing with the chief. Do you have any measurements that you guys have that you could talk about? Any successes with the program in place right now? And I get the impact, Mr. Chairman, to the director from listening to different police officers in the field talk about they feel restricted. And I'm not going to elaborate, but that's the constant language that I get from white officers and black officers, both male and female.
Through the chair. So I think with respect to measures of success, there's public safety puts out its annual report and it highlights a variety of data. And I think as we're assessing whether any of this is working, I mean, one is looking at what's in the monitor's report. You know, are we making progress? Is the monitor seeing that we're making progress? And I think the answer to that has been yes. Now, it obviously hasn't been enough in the monitor's eye to get out of the consent decree, but I think if you read the succession of reports over the years, the city has made progress, and that progress has been recognized by the federal government. In addition to that, there are, you know, some other data that we certainly would look at, which is the number of citizen complaints, the use of force, things of that nature, which indicate the effectiveness of all of this training in the aggregate to ensure that our police officers are doing their job constitutionally and not relying on unconstitutional methods, uses of force, et cetera, to do their jobs.
So right now, with the citizens, the number of citizen complaints, I would presume you were saying maybe that has went down?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I would say I believe that it has, and I think that's one good way to measure sort of at the highest level how our police officers are engaging with members of our community. Is if the number of complaints is declining, then that suggests that the interactions between our men and women in uniform are ending more effectively than in prior years.
Well, I got to say, Mr. Chairman, again, I just think that the men and women who are working in the city, as well as in particular the 4th District, they do a heck of a job, given the factors that they are under every day and the stresses that they have to endure. I'm appreciative that we do have some good people that work for us in the police department and keep us safe. I'm quite sure if we didn't have no help, we'd really be in trouble. That's the reason why I try to do everything I can to be supportive of making sure that they have all the resources that they need to have and have all the equipment that they need to have so that they can deal with an ever-evolving and changing world and dealing with people who have mental issues on a daily basis. I'm quite sure is very stressful. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, on training, one of the things that, and she's not here, Jasmine Santana has always talked about is having some kind of facility that are created for police to give them like some kind of downtime, some kind of resting period, some kind of time off, some kind of relaxational lounge of therapy. I don't know if we have ever implemented any of those types of facilities. So the question is, do we have any of those?
Director?
Through the chair, I do not know the answer to that. I do know that the new headquarters, which is being built, will have a variety of fitness facilities for officers to use, but I don't know about other facilities that might be available.
And the reason why I say that, Mr. Chairman, because we don't know, and this is just to elaborate, and this is just a suggestion to the administration, is having a facility, even if you have massage therapists there, and if you can't afford the massage therapist, get some of those nice massage chairs, and have a, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'm winding it down, some type of facility set aside to help our men and women to detoxify from a toxic atmosphere of work that they have to do day in and day out. So if we could put something together like that, I think that shows our commitment to their stability and mental health.
So through the chair, I do know that the Division of Police does have a variety of health and wellness, mental health services available to officers to help them cope with the very difficult jobs that they have to do every day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director.
Just one other question. On page 237, on the under the maintenance contracts, is that the IT section or what is it?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, that's correct. So
Okay.
in addition to taking from Public Safety Administration, there were 2 IT staff moved from DOJ and the associated contracts.
Okay, thank you. Without any further ado, we'll move on. Staff? Police Inspector General.
Page 232, Public Safety Inspector General, Chief Director Carrie D. Howard. Page 233, 2023 unaudited salaries and wages, none. 2024 budgeted, $162,442. Excuse me, $107,998. 2023 unaudited total expenditures, none. 2024 budgeted, $162,442. Page 234, number of employees as of December 2023, none. 2024 budgeted, 1. Chair.
Okay, Director, you want to comment on this? It's my understanding that this was one of the areas that the monitor pointed out. So what is the administration's game plan here to fill this position?
To the chairman, we continue to try to recruit for this role. It has been vacant for the last 2 years, and it is, yes, it is something that the monitoring team has identified in its report. But we continue to work to fill it, and we are hopeful that we're able to do that this year.
Okay, what is the salary range here?
We're budgeted for up to $107,000 would be the salary.
Up to 107.
Yeah.
And does this individual have to have police background training?
Through the chair, I believe that, I don't know if it's a technical requirement, but I think given the nature of the role, we would certainly view that as a positive. I think the real responsibility here is with respect to auditing and inspecting compliance with the consent decree. So I think that experience is probably the most critical, but doing that in the context of police would be helpful.
So again, it's been vacant for 2 years. The federal monitor, who we're paying $7.50 an hour, has cited this in their annual and ongoing report. So what's the effort to fill this position? I mean, I don't get it. 2 years, $107,000 is the salary range. So we're paying $7.50 an hour. The monitor is saying this position needs to be filled, and it doesn't get filled for 2 years as we're sitting here. Someone's got to explain that one to me.
To the chairman, the position has been posted. I know it's been advertised in a variety of venues, not just the government jobs website that the city uses for its general postings. But for whatever reason, has been a really difficult position to fill. I don't know.
Okay. We're going to make this request. If you can tell us what the requirements, what the prerequisites are for this position, and exactly what their responsibilities are. And that should, and I make that through you, and I make that to the staff. And that should go to all members of the body. What are the prerequisites? What background do they have to have? What is their exact responsibility to undertake? Okay, questions of the committee. Councilman Jones, you had a question.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, just really quickly on this one here, you're saying that the salary is how much again?
107.
107,000.
Do we need to increase it maybe to get it filled, or is there any assessment on why it wasn't? Is it a human resource? I know that, I don't want to blame everything on human resources, of course, but it seems like it's very difficult to get folks hired into the city quick. And so I'm not sure if that's the issue here.
Through the chair, I do know that there was a candidate identified last year and offered a position who accepted a job somewhere else. So I think there have been points at which we have had a good candidate in front of us, but for whatever reason just didn't work out. I don't know that the salary would need to increase or not. I think that we would find that out if we found a really compelling candidate and they said, the salary would need to come up for them to join. Then we would have to have a discussion on how to respond to that.
So it's open right now. Someone can come and apply now. Mr. Chairman, to the director, do you have a job description you can send or request a job
We've asked for
description?
that. We've
Okay.
asked for that.
And then that way you can get it to us, and then if there's some folks that I might know, or at least put it out in our newsletter, so that folks know that this is an open opportunity.
Okay.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councilman Jones. And again, to the viewing public, anyone who wants to apply for Police Inspector General, please do so. $107,000, and we don't have the prerequisites for the position before us, but I'm sure it's online. I'm assuming it's online, correct, Director? Okay, any other, yes, Councilman Starr, you're applying, or what are you doing? What are you doing here? Okay, okay.
Just Chairman, I was just asking, can we make that a contractual opportunity and see what I can do as well? Because I apply too.
Yeah, well,
There you go.
we'll
I think Starr
overlook
would make a
that
great
comment,
general.
okay?
Through the chair,
Director.
I would advise against that, Councilman.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Any other questions, Councilman Starr? Any other questions of anyone else around the table? Okay, we know the position is open. We've made a request of what that job will entail. 2 years. So, cha-ching, we're paying $7.50 an hour, and that's one of the areas that they're citing that has not been filled. So let's move forward. Okay. Next,
Page 219, Division of Emergency Medical Services.
219?
219,
Okay, what do we got here?
Commissioner Orlando Wheeler.
EMS.
Page 221, 2023 unaudited salaries and wages, $23,966,637. 2024 budgeted, $22,702,471. 2023 unaudited total expenditures, page 223, $36,400,108. 2024 budgeted, $36,461,249. Number of employees as of December 2023, 289. Budgeted 2024, 304. Chair.
Okay. Director, we do not have any statistics accompanying this department, this division, excuse me. Do you have those?
Through the chair, I'm sorry, there should be a table on page 219.
219, let me see. That just gives the response time.
To the chair, what other statistics are you?
Number of
referencing?
transports. We want whatever information you can supply to us. This is the budget. This-
To the chair, I believe that would be in the annual report of the Department of Public Safety.
Okay. I don't believe we've received that yet.
As I understand, it was delivered either last night or this morning.
Oh.
Yeah, I just got it. I just got it
telling
last
us.
night.
Okay, well, I don't have it. The last time I looked, I chaired the safety committee, so I do not have that information, and I don't know if the council president has it. Nope. Okay, so Director, not a good way to do business, okay? So I need to see it. We need to see it. So let's,
To the chair, there were in 2023, there were 73,676 transports.
How many?
73,676.
okay. So you're gonna supply us that information.
Yes.
We want as much data as we could get. EMS is some of my newer colleagues. EMS was created as a demand by Cleveland City Council due to the fact that emergency medical services were being carried out in essence by the police department in the day, where they would throw you in the back of a station wagon and take you to the hospital with the hope that you were going to get there in time. And as a result of fatalities and people not being able to get to the hospital in time, including a council member who had a heart attack and died. The EMS division came about as a result of that. And so the council has pushed very diligently and hard over the years to support EMS, and we want to make sure we have an EMS department that is meeting the demand that we see in the city of Cleveland today. So, Director, touch on full-time employees. They're down, and that's a concern to us.
To the chairman, the budgeted staff for the division of EMS is static from 2023 to 2024 at 304 full-time. We are anticipating bringing in 30 cadets this year to offset, to get to full staff.
The 30 cadets would come on when?
I'm not sure when the class will start. but
You
in-
anticipate 30?
In 2024, that's correct.
Okay, wait a
Which
minute.
will help offset attrition, expected attrition, and get the division to full staffing at the 304 level.
Okay, wait. But we budgeted in 2023, 304, you know that.
To the chair, correct, and that's what's budgeted for 2024.
But, okay, let me look at this. Let me understand. So you're telling the body that we will be up at the full strength?
To the-
With the advent of the 30 coming on?
To the chair, that is the plan, yes.
Okay. Let's jump over to page 221, under other training and professional dues, tuition and registration fees, a substantial increase there. Explain that one to us.
To the chair, that is to reimburse individuals for completing paramedic class and certification outside of the city's programming. So if an employee gets that certification externally, the city will reimburse him or her for doing that.
Okay. And to my colleagues, this is something we recommended the council because the employee in the past had to pay for their training, which we could not understand. Nobody in fire, nobody in police had to pay for their training. So it was estimated, what, about $5,500 or $5,700?
To the chair, I believe that's correct.
Okay, so that would cover how many employees, do we know? Is that you?
3.
Carrie.
Who is she? So we're going to make that request. We want to know
Approximately 50 employees.
Okay, so we want to know what that number is. For sure, what it costs.
Go ask
And are we reimbursing or are we contracting with someone to provide that training?
To the chair, it's a reimbursement.
Reimbursement. Okay. So that would cover that. Then under contractual services, professional services, what's the substantial increase there at the bottom of the page on 221?
To the chair, that covers biohazard waste pickup, the medical equipment that's used in the trucks. There's also a maintenance contract for the Zoll data system, which handles the inputting of the information about the run that then gets transferred over for billing purposes.
Okay.
And that's a newer system that comes with additional maintenance costs that we didn't previously have.
Was billing ever a part of the EMS operation?
To the chair, as far as I'm aware, no.
Okay. Under materials and supplies in 221, substantial decrease in medical supplies. Can you explain that one?
To the chair, there was an increase over the last several years due to the need for added materials to deal with the pandemic.
Yes.
As that has abated, those needs have also gone down.
Okay, then why under pharmaceutical supplies is there a big increase then?
To the chair, that is for, primarily for Narcan.
Narcan. Okay. Okay. Maintenance contracts, under maintenance, substantially increased there.
Yep. To the chair, that is largely in connection with the Zoll EMS patient care and data system, which is now a cloud-based system that comes with an annual maintenance subscription fee.
Okay. Okay, members of the committee, I'm starting with Councilman Slife, and I have Slife and Jones. Anyone else on the list? Spencer. Okay, Councilman Slife.
Thank you, and there's a chance I come back on the list later. My first point, this EMS, so I think it's unsurprising to all of you that I think very highly of EMS. I think that they, in comparison to the rest of public safety, they get a much smaller share of the budget. However, they really are our first line of defense in keeping people safe in health crises. And I think if there's any area of our budget that I would love to see increase, it would be EMS, because I think as we talk about care response models and just a lot of the needs we have as the city, and trying to recognize that a lot of the challenges we have are not best resolved by police, to the extent that we have a lot of healthcare-based challenges, both physical health, mental health. I think that EMS is the more logical way to connect with residents. The 2023 actual is 107% of the 2023 budgeted. So this is a case of one of the few departments that went over budget last year. So my first question to the chief is, are we confident that the budgeting that's suggested for 2024 aligns with the totality of the need?
Through the chair to the
Director.
councilman, yes. So 2023 was a bit of an anomaly. We had a variety of labor contracts with staff in EMS ratified going back as far as 6 years, and had to make retroactive payments to those affected employees. So there was a big spike in salary expense in 2023 as a result of those retroactive payments, which we will not have in 2024.
Okay. Could we receive staff, and this was discussed during the operations hearings, but can we get an update on sort of the staffing plan, and especially data on the instances of brownouts of ambulances? Anecdotally, it seems that things have improved. I mean, the year prior, we only spent 90% of the budget, and there had been a lot of challenges in EMS. So we're allowing lateral transfers. It seems that things are improving. But I want to just trust but verify and understand, are we still dealing with staffing challenges, and whether we're dealing with staffing challenges that cause brownouts or just the scale of the call volume, does that justify having additional crews on the roads? I think is worth understanding. The other thing I want to discuss is we discussed at length previously at this table about revenue recovery. And as the book shows, revenue recovery dropped significantly from 21 to 23. And we know that there are discussions about changing our billing model. But the fact that the 2024 revenue does still not exceed what we were successfully able to collect in 22 and 21. Could the chief speak to how that number was derived, and does that number assume that billing continues to be done in-house, or that it has been contracted out? And essentially, because again, we raised our rates to better align with what the federal programs will reimburse us. It became clear that we were leaving money on the table. So I want to, in this instance, make sure that we are not repeating the mistake that we had sought to correct.
Through the chair to the councilman, so with respect to the revenue for 2024, we are assuming a split year. Part of the year with in-house collections, part of the year with contracted out. The ordinance has, as far as I'm aware, has not yet passed, so we don't have authorization to enter into the contract. And once we get that authorization, we have the RFP responses are in, we're vetting those, but until we have the legislative authority to enter into the contract, that work will wait. In the best of cases, I would imagine it takes a month or two to get that contract in place and turn over the keys to the operations to the outside contractor. So that's why the level is where it is for 2024. Based on our discussions with other cities that have gone this direction, we certainly anticipate as the outside billing provider gets settled in and is doing the work, that revenue will increase significantly over the years.
Okay. As that contract is entered into, there will obviously be, the notification in the city record. But can we make sure that council gets a briefing in writing is fine about the mechanics of that contract and try? Especially, I'm interested in understanding the charge for service that the contractor would apply to the revenue and what percentage of a total revenue essentially that we would be, what's the gross, what's the net. Again, I don't want people to feel that they shouldn't call an ambulance at the time of need, but a decent portion of people calling for EMS, it is billing to private insurance, and I think that we should not be shy about billing to private insurance as others have. I'll leave it there. I may come back on, but I will say I want to thank the administration. It had been a point of contention for a while about doing EMS ride-alongs, and the real concern was the exposure to sensitive medical situations, and that's been resolved. If colleagues haven't, there's a little HIPAA test you got to take, but I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to ride with Commissioner Wheeler, and my key point of interest was not the direct medical care being provided in the back of an ambulance. I don't have the skill set to be able to determine whether it is quality, although I very much assume that it is, and the data prove that out. But my area of interest was especially on just how resources are deployed, and as we all know, theoretically, if I stub my toe on Grayton Road and ask to be transported to Euclid Hospital, EMS is required to honor that. So my key point of interest was understanding it's not so simple that this ambulance covers this part of town. If someone's on the southeast side and gets taken to Metro, as they're leaving Metro, that ambulance may get called to somewhere on the near west side because it's the closest ambulance, and how kind of you move the pieces around in real time. So it was really informative for me. I would encourage others to take part if you can, understand how the dispatch works. It was very enlightening and worth a couple hours. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to kind of like leave off just because I didn't hear the explanation on the reasons why did we change systems as it relates to revenues on page 223. I know you said something, but I just didn't pick that up. Why is it
Through the chair, so the $11 million estimated revenue for 2024 reflects our expectation that for part of the year, the billing will continue to be done in-house by city employees, and then for the latter part of the year and then going forward into the future, will be done by an outside third party. And so we expect, as we transition to the third party collector, our revenues will increase. And my personal expectation is that when we're going through this in 2025, we'll be getting closer to or exceeding the levels of revenue that we've seen in prior years before 2023.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, how does that work? Do they get a percentage of what they bring in? How does that, if you could explain?
Through the chair, yes. So they take a percent of what comes in, and that is sort of the heart of what's negotiated really with these companies, is what that percent is. And in talking to colleagues in other cities, they experienced almost uniformly double-digit increases in revenue when they transitioned from in-house to out-of-house collections. And so at a certain level, the percent that is paid is on funds that we never would have received in the first place. So there's, it's not as simple as saying, oh, they're taking all this money. It's figuring out how to structure the arrangement so that they are incentivized to keep exceeding what has been collected in the past, because the service has already been provided, right? We're billing Medicare, Medicaid, private insurers, so there's a real incentive for us to be dogged in collecting these bills from these corporate entities and governmental entities that are obligated to pay.
I see. And so, Mr. Chairman, can you explain to me, because first, if you could, before we get into this, can you explain to me what's the breakdown of minorities as relates to the Division of Medical Services? How many African American people work in the department?
In all of EMS or in EMS billing?
EMS.
EMS.
Through the chair, in EMS, the ethnic racial breakdown is 167 whites, 80 blacks, 15 Hispanics, 5 Asians, and 11 others.
All right, so 167 whites, 80 blacks, and what was the other?
15 Hispanics, 5 Asians, 11 others. And the division is 57% male and 43% female.
I guess my question, Mr. Chairman, is years ago, and I know things change, we want to have the best people come work for us. But I've consistently seen this number for African Americans consistently go down. Do we know the reason why that is? Because at one point it was 50-50.
To the chair, no.
I see. So are we making any, how do we recruit?
Through the chair, to the councilman, recruitment for EMS is handled similar to the other public safety divisions from Public Safety Administration. And it's the recruitment team goes out, and I know that they work hard to identify diverse candidates for these positions, ultimately unable to control who applies and of the people who apply who's qualified. But I know that at the departmental level, from the director down through the commissioners, there is certainly an effort to recruit diverse pools of employees for each of the divisions in public safety.
So if I'm an EMT trainee, for an example, what gets me to being a paramedic one?
Through the chair, you need the paramedic certification, which we are now reimbursing employees for the cost of.
And then how long does it take to get to paramedics 2?
Through the chair, I'd have to review the union contract, but that would be just a step up in the labor contract. That'd be time in service from time as paramedic 1, and then you hit the time threshold, you move up to paramedic 2.
Right.
Similar to how police and fire progress.
Right. So Mr. Chairman, I would like to know, and I don't know if we talked to the director over this division, of how is it that employees progress from one point to the next? So we have paramedics 2 and paramedics 3. So do we know how long it takes a person from moving from EMT trainee to go through the system to get to a paramedic 3?
Through the chair, that's all in the labor contract, and we can provide a copy of that.
And then, Mr. Chairman, how is it that some people are paid a different salary than others in the paramedic 3? There's a substantial difference in some of these. Is this based on the merit system? How does that work?
Director?
Through the chair, recollection is that some of the paramedic staff also work out of their paramedic classification for some amount of time as supervisors, and so they receive a differential pay for that time as a supervisor. In
So that's
addition,
why they have the increase?
Yeah.
And why does some of them don't have that increase?
Director?
Because there's some that are paid substantially lower.
Yep, through the chair, that would be the individuals who are not serving as supervisors.
I see. Mr. Chairman, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try to not repeat a lot of what's already been stated by my colleagues, but I wanted to state first that One of the first things I noticed when I opened this year's budget book was actually on page 36. It's the summary of the general fund. And when you go there, EMS is the only division. Most divisions have healthy percentage increases, right? When you look at across the board, there's a couple with slight decreases. EMS, 0% on page 36. So that was one of the very first things that caught my eye in this year's budget. And I'm just concerned about when you look at the investments being made in other divisions and departments, to me that screamed, we're not investing in EMS. So I think that that was an immediate concern for me, just in terms of a high-level message of we're investing in other departments and divisions, but we're not giving the same due to EMS. And that's again on page 36 under the general fund expense summary. It is, however, my understanding, also based on today's discussion, that thanks to the tuition and registration fees on page 221, the reimbursement, that staffing is becoming stabilized. And so that is really trending in the direction in which it needs to go, and that investment is critically important. But I guess I wanted to take a moment through the chair to ask the finance director just about the general feeling of a 0% increase for EMS in 2024.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, so that figure is accurate and misleading at the same time. In 2023, we ratified a series of contracts for employees in the division going back 2 contracts, so 6 years of that included 6 years of retroactive pay. We made all of those payments in 2023, which hits the 2023 budget. So I believe that came to a total of $4-ish million.
How much? I'm sorry.
Approximately $4 million in additional pay that was tied directly to ratifying those contracts. Which is an expense that we will not have this year because we've already ratified the contracts.
So in other words, that was catch-up dollars, and we are investing more in EMS this year relative to last year.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to, just a brief question, I think it was asked earlier, but to clarify, what is the, under maintenance contracts? I think it was asked earlier, and I apologize, through the chair.
all right.
On page 222.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, the significant portion of that is to cover the sort of ongoing operations of our Zoll medical data system for input of patient care data and then delivery of that data to the EMS billing unit. And there are other similar IT-related expenses in there. So the AVL, the vehicle location software that's in the ambulances is covered under that line item as well.
Okay. And I really want to conclude with, this whole question of the revenue this is a really important conversation. I wanted to, we had a pretty in-depth discussion in Finance Committee about the question of outsourcing EMS billing, the need to ensure that our existing city workers are protected, and yet not wanting to leave a lot of money on the table. So I know that discussion is ongoing. It's my understanding that it did pass Finance Committee, but did not get voted on by the full body.
It's in committee.
It's in committee, okay. I would just say that if possible, for members of the body who were not involved in that discussion, do we have available to us the breakout of how much unclaimed billing is on the table through the chair?
If my memory serves me correct, there was around 51,000 accounts receivable. And again, I want to say, well, the director might have the number. I thought it was around 13 million, but I might be incorrect.
Through the chair, I'd have to confirm, but that those numbers seem in the ballpark. And I would just note, the core service that we're trying to maintain here is the transports. Billing is not sort of a core municipal function, and anything we can do to enhance what we collect from the services we're providing from Medicare, federal government and private insurers to help support the actual service delivery is, I think, to the good. And that's really the animating spirit behind looking to outsource this, is to bring in more revenue for the work we're already doing to help ensure that we can keep doing it in the future.
I know that, thank you. I know that that this body and our leadership needs to continue to take a look at that to make sure there's a comfort level with moving that forward. I think it would be a very different discussion today had that piece passed, the full body. One question I would have raised, for example, and that presuming it does pass, that I would love to raise in the future is if EMS is able to significantly increase charges for services, can some of that be reinvested back into EMS? So we're not just at the kind of basic level of functioning that citizens absolutely need and expect, but realizing additional potential within the division of EMS. So I think that's a discussion that's worth having once this billing question is resolved going forward.
Okay, and on that note, obviously any increase in revenue streams that we can collect that can come into general fund are helpful to all departments and divisions. The still outstanding issues with EMS billing was that there was approximately 15 people working there at one time, down to 5, last count, with 1 supervisor. Former employees indicated it was a toxic work environment. That's why they left. It was moved from, I believe, licenses and assessments, correct, to risk management, was why no one can explain to me the rationale behind that move. I refer to it as risky management, and as a result, here we sit. Still, the employees that are there all had to get licenses to be able to bill. These are talented individuals, but they were not given the support, and they were not given the help that they were needed. And I've indicated, as I indicated to the council president, I'm not voting for it. I'm sick and tired of seeing stuff transferred out of here to consultants or outside vendors. It worked at one time. It was working, but then you create a toxic work environment for the women working down there, and then you wonder why they left. So that's where I'm at on it. So I have Councilman Griffin up. Council President, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, we all have some concerns over that. We know that AFSCME and others are trying to figure out a path forward. We don't deal with negotiations, but our legislative process is going to always reflect support for workers. So just want to make sure that we have a good understanding of how they are going to how this is going to look moving forward. So I'll leave it at that. Do have one request, and this is more so of a question that I am asking that I've seen in other cities. Other cities, I think most recently was Washington, D.C., had like blood on ambulances where they actually had a program that they believe helped save lives, because right now you have to transfer patients to hospitals. Is there or has there ever been any request to potentially have one of those folks manage the blood transfusion program or try to carry that? And I'm trying to get numbers. I don't have the numbers yet, but it's my understanding that San Antonio, Austin, New Orleans, and D.C. all have this kind of program. And I just read about it, so just trying to make sure I understand.
Yeah, through the chairman to the council president, I'm not aware of any request coming to us from the division. However, if that was something that was of interest operationally to EMS, then we would figure out how to make it work.
Well, can we put in a request to Commissioner Wheeler to look into this to see what would be the cost of that? And I'm asking the policy team if that's one of the things, because I'm hearing that it's relatively cheap. If it's like only $20,000 or $30,000 and we just need to have somebody manage it, then these are the kind of small incremental things that we should do that will probably save lives and be able to cut down response times because people are dealing with blunt injuries or something like that. So if we could, can we get that priced out by Commissioner Wheeler and see if that might be an expenditure that we can consider?
Can I ask a point on that?
Yes.
I'm done, Councilman.
Yes, you may, Councilman.
That's a great, listening to you, Council President, to the chair, I mean, that's great. It's going to save lives. Probably have them to look at, Council President, the whole system of doing it, because it might be the blood, but it might be something else that they have on there so we can study, look at lessons learned for the whole. I mean, because the idea is great. You know what I'm talking about for the whole system. Absolutely. All right, thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thanks.
Mr.
You're welcome.
Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions of EMS? We're going to make an official request. Councilman Slife, go ahead.
If you'll allow me a point of personal privilege,
Go ahead.
this is
You've got
not
the
a
floor.
question as much, but I've mentioned to some of you just before Christmas, I was at the YMCA in West Park, and a guy in the room had a cardiac arrest, just a couple people down from me, and
Defibrillator.
we were able to, so he's fine, but basically a 6% chance of survival with this sort of cardiac arrest, but because there was an AED available at the Y and EMS responded so quickly, plus being very close to Fairview Hospital, all of these combined to help save this resident's life. That's really motivated me to kind of double down on the community CPR program, and in conversations with Director Howard, it does seem that is in the works to be re-upped within this budget. But in addition to that, and I've included Stephanie House-Jones in this as we represent council on the Racism as a Public Health Crisis Coalition. I'm convening a meeting in March to explore ways that we can increase the presence of AEDs across Cleveland. There's especially a disparity in AED availability in our lower income communities and our communities of color where there are worse health measures. So I'm just throwing that out there because I think that it's something that we need to message out to our community. And if there are any members of council who would like to get involved with this work, I'd encourage you to reach out to me. I think it's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Slife. Yes, Mr. Jones.
I'd like to join you, Mr. Slife, to be on that committee. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of EMS? We've heard a request. We're going to make the request. We want the exact dollar amount outstanding for EMS billing and the number of accounts that are outstanding, accounts receivable. And if you can break that down by length of time, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. Broke out. Again, I will say, I think all of us around this table, and I know the council president has indicated to me repeatedly, of watching EMS, making sure that it is staffed sufficiently. So on that note, with regard to the ARPA funds that we allocated for equipment, is all that equipment in for EMS?
To the chairman, I believe all of it has been delivered except maybe one of the ambulances.
Okay, if you can update us on the ARPA equipment, the equipment that we purchased with ARPA funds, I'd like to know that as well. We have police and fire up
One more thing
next.
for EMS, if I could.
Okay, yes, Mr.
I just
President.
want to if I could, and I always remember this, in 2017, when we went to the taxpayers to increase the income tax, the number one service that everybody said they wanted on those surveys was EMS.
That's right.
And a lot of people thought it was going to be police. They thought it was going to be other services. So when I hear Councilwoman Spencer, who I know stepped out, talked about how EMS was probably the one department that did not see any kind of measurable increase, I just want us to think through that, because that's one of the reasons why I always want to try to make sure we adhere to those workers. And I know we have a couple of the CARE members here today, so I do want to acknowledge whenever we have workers from the audience here. The couple of members, Tim Summerfeld, and I forgot the gentleman, the actual president's name. Mark, what? Mark Mayer. Okay, so just want to make sure we acknowledge them that they're here, okay?
And we appreciate EMS. We appreciate CARE Union communicating with us on a frequent basis. This is a critical city service. We all know police, fire, EMS, you can't get any more critical than that. So again, we'll look for the information. So again, fire and police are up next. But we know those are going to take some time. There's going to be some more lengthy discussion. So the council president and myself, we have decided that we are going to take a break at this point. We will then, we will have lunch, and we're tentatively set to come back here at 12:30, or do you want to do it 12:45?
Let's do 12:30 because it's going to be.
Okay, tentatively set 12:30. We will be back unless there's a change, and then at that point, we will let everyone know, and we'll let the administration know. Committee is in recess. Thank you.